Hello everyone, today I'm working on this Atlas 282 and these were made for Atlas by Rivarossi, and back in the day these were the state of the art, but that was a long time ago. So this one does not run obviously because the tender is messed up and I won't be able to repair it because the little truck has been disintegrated. The little truck that goes to the back has been disintegrated through time, and the tender picks up one side of the track and the engine picks up this side of the track. But the engine actually looks to be in good condition. The quick fix for that is just to take a tender from another engine. I've got more than one of these, so that's kind of cool. And I'm gonna start by cleaning up this box. I really like these boxes. They are amazing. Although over time they degrade a little bit, but this one is going to be very usable. I've seen it once before where they still have the decals, so I don't know. Let's have a look. That would be a nice surprise. Oh yeah, look at that. They got partially used, but there's still some decals there. So I still have Southern, Erie, Nickel Plate Road, Union Pacific. That's really neat. I've got to try them. They probably work well. I am going to remove all this tape and then I'll clean it. That's going to improve the looks of the box quite a bit. I'm going to be using my turtle wax to try and get rid of this glue. The Scotch tape was kind of easy to remove, so that's good. Well, it still has a few scratches, but that's to be expected given this thing's age. These look pretty good to me when you consider how old they are, and they have a good amount of detail. There is a super nice kit from Atlas that can replace the pilot with a coupler if you want to double head down or do some switching. Pretty well detailed. This thing's in good shape. The injectors here, they can fall off. I've seen them fall off from time to time, so that is awesome. Are you guys really into steam engines? Steam engines, they're usually detailed for each of the railroads, but there's stuff on them that makes sense. These are pop valves, probably. Pop valves, generator. This is the steam dome to control the amount of steam delivered to the cylinders. The sand dome, the bell, air tanks, power reverse, air compressor for the brakes, air tanks for the brakes. So the two sides are not the same. So let's just see if this will run. I've got my test leads here. So this engine, there's one side that takes electricity from the track. The other side brings electricity from the tender to this pin. So it seems to be binding. What I think that is well, first, good news, the motor is good. And then the bad news is the drivers are binding. Probably the timing's off. Somebody took it apart to relubricate it, and one of the drivers is not timed correctly. So I'll go into that with you as I clean it. So this was put up for sale probably because it didn't run. So it doesn't run at all like this, but I know how to fix it. A lot of people still buy and sell them on eBay. I see them all the time. So I got this in a lot with other engines. I'll often go look at what's available as far as lots go. and I'll buy them. I'll buy them for parts, and then maybe I can get them running. So this is the case with this one. I think it's gonna run. Although I have to supply a tender for it. This tender, I'm keeping it for parts, but it's basically written off. And I will start by removing the motor so we can have a look at the motor on its own. This is just a little tab that brings electricity to the light. The light stays in here. It stays in here in the shell. I mean, you can remove it if you want, but to save time, I just leave it in there. So this, you can see one side of the electricity is brought from the frame, and then this is the other side brought from the tender for the little light bulb. So there's also 2 screws that hold the motor in. These are pretty easy to find. And for what I'm used to, these are really big screws. So I don't have to say, you know, be careful, don't lose them on the floor. For what I'm used to, for what today's engines are, they're really big. But actually, you know, considering this is very old technology, it runs okay. I can't complain too much. So I'm being careful with this wire because I do not want to redo this soldering here and here. Let's put it on the test lead, see how it runs. So one side picks up from the frame of the locomotive and the other side picks up from the tender. Actually runs very good. I'm gonna lower my voltage there. Let's see what we got. That's decent. That's as good as it's gonna get. Although I am gonna take a second to lubricate it a little bit. So that's what I use, the Bell 108. You see my bottle's almost empty. But these go a long way. So all I do is I put a tiny little drop on the bearing here. And then I'll spin the motor with my finger just to work it in. And there's a little bit of thrust on the shaft, so I use that too. I'll use the thrust on the shaft to let the oil penetrate a little bit. And I'll also use my test leads to help it to penetrate further. So obviously this motor has seen better days. And I'll do the exact same thing on the front bearing. You just want to put just one drop. One drop is good because if you over lubricate it, your oil will go to the commutator, and it's bad. You don't want to cause interference there. Actually feels pretty good. I'm going to lower my voltage, see what happens. Yeah, it's seen better days, but doesn't matter. It's still gonna run. Okay, enough of that. So that is great news. Usually the motors, they overheat and become bad on these. And this grease, although there's too much of it, it's still malleable. So it's definitely not the issue. I'm going to remove this plate here that secures all the gears together. And then we'll have a look. Oh, that's on there tight. It's okay, I got bigger screwdrivers. Sometimes I'll do work on my truck, and on the truck, it's not the same. You have to use like actual strength to move the bolts. On these little guys, it's not so bad. You don't have to use that much strength. There. Now that it's loose, I can use my smaller one again. And also keep that in mind as you tighten them. You don't need to tighten them very hard because they are, they are tiny, so you can strip the bolts. All this stuff is in really good shape, although these wheels could use some cleaning. To remove them from the truck, you would have to drill out this rivet. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to clean them with my rag. I clean them with my rag, but in the truck like that. It takes a little bit more time, but I don't want to bust the rivet out. This does absolutely zero for power pickup. It's just I like to have them around. I have to have them clean just because I want my engine to look clean. This little screw holds the front pilot truck. I don't need to do anything to this. This is going to be fine just like that. But I am going to see if I can remove that. Oh, I can't. It's in the way. All right. Since it's in the way, we're going to take it out. That is not a problem. So be careful. The little screw has a little spring. So you don't want to lose that. So be careful with that. And then that'll just fall out. And then super easy to get at to clean that one. Again, does it pick up electricity? Maybe just a little bit. So as you put it back, you want to be careful to put it exactly the way that it was. Let's see, as you can see, it's insulated on both sides, so also does nothing for picking up electricity. Then to remove my plate, I also have to remove this little screw. This little screw holds the front pilot beam, also known as the cow catcher. Then you have access to your wheels. Yeah, everything's on there. So if you want to put the Microtrain's coupler conversion, just goes on here. Yeah, there you go. My wheels are out of time now. Since they were before that, it's not going to be a problem. Just can't remember if this goes up or down. Looks like up. Anyway, I won't force it too much. Actually, I don't have to remove everything from here. Whoa, I can just retime it from there. You can see there's a traction tire here and here. So you want to keep these in place. I had it this way. If you ever did that, you're going to cause a short circuit because this picks up the track and this picks up the track, so short circuit. So keep that in mind. That would be bad. So I'm just going to retime everything just to see if we can get it running again. The last person, they just put oil on it and that was not good. So okay, you can still move it with your hands. If you need to move the gears a little bit, you can still do it. That's not a problem. So these the two front ones should be free as a bird now. So we're going to start. The drivers are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. So start with number 1. As you can see, the counterweight is down. The other side, it's a quarter turn apart, so the counterweight is facing forward. So you want to have that. Every driver should be 100% like that. This one too, this one, is it loose? Nope. This one too, you want it to turn it around until it gets like that, 100% where it should be. And you know what, whilst I have it in my hands, I'm going to take them apart to clean them, and then we'll reset them one at a time very carefully. But this is worth the extra time, I think. So I'm going to clean all of them off camera, because I think this is a little bit boring. So now I've got my counterweight in the down position. So I'm going to bring in my number 2 driver here. And I will time it perfectly. And there's a little bit of slack here, okay? That it won't interfere with you running the engine, but just makes the engine look better. So I want it to be exact when the engine is going to turn that way going forward. So I want it to be exact. I'm going to put the slack more towards when the engine's going forward, and you'll see that the drivers has lined up properly. So that takes a little bit of time to get it just right. So see, that looks pretty good. I'm going to set the number 3 driver also. Till it's perfect. And then once you get everything lined up properly, you can put the plate back with its screws. And these are useful to keep the gear on the top there. They got stuck on the plate. That is okay. We'll put them in their proper place. And then I'll put the plate back on. With its 2 screws. Now I'm not going to turn it with the motor just yet. I'm going to turn it with the screwdriver, just to make sure that everything's lined up properly. See, if it binds again, then that means my timing isn't perfect. So I have to restart till it's decent. Yeah, this isn't good. So yes, turn it with your screwdriver at least 2 revolutions, 2 complete revolutions, just to make sure that you're not binding anywhere. And then after that, you can bring in your motor to test everything out. So that looks real good so far. Then you can bring in your little motor and put some power to it. Then we'll see what we got. So that's good news. That's going backward. Very good. And then forward. So that's awesome. Superb. I'm gonna start reattaching some of the stuff to it. That's gonna be a good runner. And as I start putting things back on it, I'll keep checking it periodically just to make sure that everything's still ship shape. Just gonna put my trailing truck before I forget it. Actually, this shouldn't be putting any pressure on that. I'm gonna take it apart just to make sure. Well, it was running before, so that's 100%. 100% of good news. Your wheels gotta have a little bit of slack like that. You do not want them to bind. Gotta be loose a little bit. That looks real good. So as I keep adding parts, I will always check it to make sure that everything's still ship shape. And then I'll also put the pilot truck. The pilot truck just slips into here. Really nice little fine parts. And then don't forget it's a screw with the spring. I have to do it off camera because it's very tricky. I've done it many times before, just today it didn't want to go in. The little spring will help keep it in place. And this little tab just puts electricity to the light bulb, which is kind of neat. At this point, I'm gonna go try it on the track to see what it's like, because running on the bench is one thing, and then running on the track is another thing. I'm even gonna put these two screws back on. I just happen to have an extra little tender close by, so I won't be having to look very far to get it. These two screws, they just hold the motor in. It could run without it, but I like to have them on. I like to have my engines as close to factory original as I can. You know, the only detail you would miss really on this would be to have separately applied handrails. Daniel Cortopassi just did an NN3 engine, and he showed exactly how to do it. It's a lot of work, but it can be done. That would add a lot to this engine. A lot of the new backbends come with this detail. So I'm gonna try it on the bench one last time off camera, and then we'll go try it on the track. So here's the moment of truth. Actually, it's a fantastic runner. That was a lucky find, if anything. And try the other direction. Very pleased with that. The little light bulb, in fact it works, but I'm running it with so little power you can barely see it. So that is actually very good news. I'm gonna put a lash up behind this, and we can have some fun today. That type of noise, nothing that bothers me too much. that's gonna be okay. And now it's time to run some trains. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.